Hello, hi, and welcome to the first ever episode of my podcast, in which I'm going to be talking about child development, parenting, education, homeschooling, all those type of subjects. Today, I want to talk about your children's dreams and aspirations, and how we can help our children to achieve their dreams and their goals, or to help them on the path of getting closer to the goals and aspirations that we set for them. When I talk to other mums and dads and parents, or even grandparents as well, about what goals they have for their kids, or what they'd like them to achieve, generally people say that they just want them to be happy. I think that's quite common, at least within the circle of parents that I talk to, at least. Definitely seems to be the most common answer, in that people just want their child to be happy. They're not so fussed on what career they choose. Obviously, they're not wishing them into poverty, but the specifics of what they do day to day aren't that important. But what is important is that they're able to be happy. I always find it a funny answer initially, because happiness is a transient state, right? You can't be happy all the time. So it's a strange wish, right? It's a strange destination to try and get to, of being continually happy in this constant state, which moves, which passes, which by its very nature doesn't linger for long. So in some ways it's an impossible goal. But let's imagine that it was possible. Let's imagine that you were able to be in a state of happiness all the time. Is that even a good thing? I feel like in order to get the most out of life, you need to be aware of, in tune with your emotions, and only being in a single state of emotion is, I think, terrible, because it denies you all those other feelings which are what's being human. So when I talk to people about this, I say, you can't deny someone feeling hunger, or other sensations, or even feeling upset, or even feeling anger. Like those are natural human or animalistic responses to things that serve a purpose, and avoiding those is a negative thing. So instead, is the goal more, and I assume that it is, and most people agree that that's what they mean, the goal is more that the periods of happiness are more frequent, and that they last for longer, and that your child will have the skills to get through periods of sadness, or other more negatively perceived emotions. So if that's the case, then if that's the goal, that your child is able to kind of stretch out those moments of happiness, and kind of diminish or work through more negative emotions, I ask people, if that's the goal, if that's what you're after for your child, for their future, how are you supporting them to get there? If that's the one thing you want more than what job they have, or where they live, or anything else, what are you doing in order to help them to achieve that? And often the answer is not a lot, or nothing. Which is why I wanted to make this video. Really, the driving force is what can we do to help our children to achieve those goals and aspirations, about emotional wellness and being able to navigate their emotional landscape effectively and positively, so that they can then do all the other things about choosing a career path, and choosing relationships and friendships, and being able to navigate all of those things. The emotional landscape is the groundwork, is the foundations for all those other things are built on, which a lot of people, as I said, agree with. But we're not doing anything about it necessarily to help our kids. And I think we can take a lot of inspiration from, not loads, but some inspiration from those super pushy parents, right? Tiger mums, or like football coach dads, or the people I'm talking about, who are incredibly specific and driven and focused with what their child is capable of and what they want them to achieve. And often it's within the world of sport, but it can also be academic as well, where they say, my child is going to be the best swimmer in the world. They're going to be an Olympic gold medalist at swimming, which obviously is an incredible amount of pressure to put onto a child, and ridiculously high expectations as well that will cause great complications with that child's mental health currently as well as in the future. Defining somebody by a specific thing that they do is only going to be harmful. But ignoring all of that, the one thing that these pushy parents do that is positive is they are active. They're actively doing things. So that parent wanting their child to become the next best swimmer, they are active in taking them to training and coaching. They're paying for the swimming teacher to teach them. They are putting their time into supporting their child to do this thing 3, 4, 5 days a week, if not more. They are having conversations with their child. How did your swimming go? What did you work on? What's your next step? They're being specific and data-driven. How fast did you swim this time? How many lengths did you do that time? They're being very active, removing the rest of the stuff. Those of us parents, not those parents, those of us parents who are hoping for their child to be able to access the world emotionally and to, like I said, stretch out moments of happiness, diminish moments of sadness, but be able to get through these things and experience them, we need to be active as well. We need to be taking more of an active approach. Rather than just hoping for something in the distance, we need to bring it closer to us, put it into our lives now and our children's lives now, and get active in how we discuss these things and do these things with our children. Well, what does that look like? So for me, for example, one of the aspirations or goals that I have for Afra, she's now 6, is I would love her to be able to independently kind of represent herself and take agency so that she can protect herself in certain situations, she can stand up for herself, and she can do what's right for her, that she feels confident in, to trust her instincts, trust her intuition, even if it means going against the grain and doing what she's not being told or being naughty, doing what she knows is right for herself. I'd love her to have that agency, going through childhood, into her teenage years, and then as an adult, to be able to stand up for herself. I'd love that. I think that would be so awesome for anyone, for myself, also for her. So how am I doing that? Well, one of the ways I'm doing it is I'm kind of deliberately in my mind holding that. I'm modeling it to her myself, and I'm kind of narrating it and commentating as I do with small things, right? So for instance, if we're going to cross the road, there are people crossing over here, but we're going to go down to the zebra crossing or the crosswalk. And I narrate my thought process. I say, some people are choosing to cross the road here. That's a risk they're willing to take. I don't want to take that risk for myself, so I'm choosing to not do what they're doing. I'm going to go down here, press the button, and wait. I'm not in a rush. I'm going to cross the road where I want to cross the road. Simple little moments like that, where rather than it being a silent process, I'm communicating my thoughts around taking agency for myself. And it can be about anything. And gradually you'll be modeling that process of agency, and your child, or for me, Afra, will be absorbing that, understanding it, logically grappling with it, and potentially enacting it herself. Another way is kind of the opposite. I'll challenge at moments where she's showing that agency of making a choice. What flavour ice cream do you want? And she'll pick, I want mango sorbet. Great, she's taken some agency. And I might be the voice of contradiction. And I might say, are you sure? Why mango? Why not this one? What made you choose that? Just so she's kind of used to justifying to herself the decisions she's making. She's now putting into words, like I've modeled before, why she's made a decision, why she wants to stand by that decision. And all of these things are done in a safe, calm, loving environment. So the further down the line, maybe when she's in a different environment, she'll have developed these tools, these strategies, and she'll be able to implement those anyway. So those are just a couple of examples of how I'm doing it with Afra. For Shay, it's different. He's 2.5, and for him, my goal, currently, is for him to be emotionally communicative and aware of his emotions and to be able to communicate them. Obviously it's difficult when he's 2, he's feeling things really strongly, and his language just isn't as good, so he's not able to say how he is feeling that accurately, if at all, which would make our lives and his lives easier, and we'd be able to have more synergy with where he's at and what he needs. So for that, we're modeling our emotions. We're labeling his emotions and saying, you feel really angry because this has happened, and that's okay, and that anger feels like this in your body. It might feel like this or feel like this, and it makes you want to do these things, and that can help. These things can be good to do, these things can be bad to do. Should we try out these things and see if the anger passes? Should we hold on and wait for the anger to pass? Now it's gone, how are you feeling? So we're labeling them, we're talking about them to him so he understands them when he's feeling them, and also in ourselves, which I think is less commonly done. As a man, I feel like anger is a real negative thing. We're not going to show anger. Showing anger in front of our families or in children is a terrible thing. Obviously, angry behaviors are, but communicating anger is a positive thing. Things can happen and I say, that's made me feel angry. That's hugely positive, rather than going down this path of denial of saying that you shouldn't feel anger. Communicate that you feel it. I feel angry. I had my ice cream. Sorry, I got ice cream on the mind. I had my ice cream, I had my mango sorbet, and I've dropped it on the floor. I'm so angry right now. I'm frustrated at myself for dropping it. I'm sad because now I don't get an ice cream. That makes me, tingle in my hands and my feet are sore. I want to stamp and I want to clench my fists up, and it's itchy in my throat. I want to just kind of shout and scream. And now I feel like I'm moving into sadness. Now I'm sad about it. Now I'm missing out on the ice cream, and that fills me with like a real heavy sadness inside. And communicating all these things is so hugely powerful for Shay, for my 2-year-old, because he's understanding that these emotions are universal, and our experiences of them, while specific to us, are universal, and there are certain ways that we can kind of understand them, appreciate them, and use them. So that's kind of like my goals for Shay and Afra, and how I'm kind of beginning to support them with the acquisition of them. Going back to the pushy parents then, it's about taking that active role of you're holding in your mind what it is you'd like them to be able to achieve, and thinking about what it looks like in their world now. One thing that I've really struggled with whilst focusing on kind of supporting Afra in particular is that I have to get into her world and do things very much at her level. And one of the things that I was doing that was kind of the opposite of supporting her with taking agency and kind of being independent and trusting her instincts was my knee-jerk reaction, my habit is to diminish things that are causing her anger or upset or frustration. For instance, she's done some artwork, let's say, and her brother's come and scrunched it up. Now to her, that's her whole world. That's huge for a 6-year-old. They've been doing a drawing, and for it to be scrunched up. Now my knee-jerk reaction is to say, oh, don't worry about it, you can do another drawing, or you only just did that one, so it can't be that important, it's a brand new one, and you haven't even finished yet, so, and I'm diminishing it, I'm taking her agency away, I'm saying what you're feeling is not valid, what you're feeling is too big in relation to what this is a small thing, you shouldn't feel a big thing, this is a small thing. And now I notice it, and now I'm aware of it, and now I need to go down into her world and go, well, actually in her world right now, this is a big thing, this is a huge thing. So feeling a big emotion to go with it is completely appropriate. And rather than me diminish it, which just separates me from her, it separates her emotion from the event, is I need to join her with it. And my knee-jerk reaction is to try and solve it, right? Solving it doesn't help with emotions. There's no solution to come there. I need to be with her in it, and so that's my chance to model, being aware of these emotions and then having agency of saying, that's really upsetting. I'm really frustrated about that. I'm really angry with Shay for doing that. Makes me want to do these things. Which of these things would be positive? Which of them would make matters worse? Do you think? And then just let it sit with her. And then eventually she'll reach a solution. That's actually really easy to do after you've allowed the emotions to sit and be there. And that's when she's then able to take agency. And then I can be modeling that or narrating it and commentating with her, of saying, you know, how could we have avoided it maybe? Or, you know, what things do we want to communicate to Shay to make sure these things don't happen again? So I found that really important for me anyway, is getting into her world, going into her level, not minimizing things, but instead kind of enlarging them and imagining that they're as big as they are for her. So those are things that I found useful anyway on this journey. But I guess you want to think about what you want your children's lives to look like as they go onwards through childhood and into adulthood. What skills you'd like them to have that you perceive to be important for their navigation of the world, whether they're emotional like the ones I've talked about, or whether they're more social, or any other skill set really, maybe not swimming, but any other skill set really. And just think about how that applies to their life now and the ways that you can support them to be achieving that now, which will look far different from when they're an adult. You know, taking agency for Afra now is about protecting a drawing she's just done. But if I can support her and she can develop that now, that's when they go forward as she becomes a teenager and an adult. She's protecting her body, she's protecting her work-life balance, she's protecting her emotional state. Huge things. But to begin with, it's going to be small. It's getting into their world and finding out what feels huge to them at this moment, and then modeling whatever skills you're after in the here and the now. So hopefully that's been useful for you guys. Feel free to comment, send me any questions about your goals and aspirations for your child. If it's just being perennially happy all the time, then that's fine. I'm not judging you, but find a way to make it realistic and achievable, and pull it down into their world now and see how you can support them with it. Like, subscribe, comment, all those usual things, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next session, or hearing you, or I don't really get to interact with you, hearing from you again when you've heard from me the next time I upload one of these. Okay, great. Enjoy the rest of your day.